Hi, this is Andrew Aversa, and today is going to be an email marketing bootcamp for e-commerce store owners. I've created a brand new WooCommerce store that actually will be a real store, but it's not currently operational. And we're going to be integrating and using Klaviyo to get started with our email marketing. Now, the phrase email marketing can have kind of like a negative connotation to it, because when people think about emails and marketing, they usually think spam first. That's like the first thing as a business owner we might think about. But the truth is that most people, if they are actually opting into a mailing list, they want to get those emails. For example, I like Magic Spoon products, and so I'm on that mailing list. I want to get those emails. What people don't like is when they did not sign up and they get emails, or they get way too many and they're not targeted and it's not what they're interested in. So just like how when we're on social media and we see ads for things that we are actually interested in and that we like, we are either interested and we click on them, comment, maybe we watch a video, we tune them out, but we're not upset. Whereas if we're getting things that are totally irrelevant, that's what's kind of grating. So the things to remember with e-commerce email marketing is that if you do it right, people will actually want to receive your communication. And the big advantage of email marketing is that you can create a really personalized relationship with your customers. But yeah, I want to jump right in here. So I want to explain basically the two kinds of email marketing that you can do with services like Klaviyo. Again, this one, I highly recommend it because it has excellent analytics, excellent automation, and most importantly, the onboarding is really good. You don't need to be a graphic designer. So here's the most basic kind of setup that when people are using email marketing, they might think about. So let's say we've got a new product coming out. In this case, it's not a hypothetical product. It's not actually released. But let's say we're coming out with a new plugin. Our product is a virtual product, so it's downloadable. And so this is going to be the name of the plugin. We're going to call it Personalized Deals Plugin Broadcast 1. So a broadcast email is something where everybody that's on the list is going to get this email. So we would send it to everybody on our list. We'll say newsletter. In this case, now you'll notice that there's some other fields here. There's engaged, 30, 60, and 90 days. We'll get to this in a bit, but let's say this is just the most basic setup. We have send to newsletter. All the rest of the settings can remain exactly the same. And then this is, again, the thought process for how we're going to do this. So subject line and preview text is extraordinarily important to the success of your email marketing because it determines whether people will actually open the email or not, or whether they just throw it away. The sender name is also important. So let's say the business name here is Impact Woo. My other business, for example, Impact Soundworks, we would send from that. If somebody signs up for this, they're interested in Impact Woo plugins, and they get an email from Andrew Aversa, that is going to be confusing. Unless they already knew who I was, it might seem like I don't know who this person is. I'm just going to send it into spam. So you need to make sure that there's a connection between the business name, what people actually signed up for, and who the sender name is. I've actually tried this. I've done some A/B testing for it before for Impact Soundworks, where I use my own name because I'm actually the main person that does a lot of the walkthrough videos. I'm kind of like a more public face for that business, and I figured, well, we have millions of views on our YouTube videos, so I could just put my name there in the sender field. But in fact, there were a lot of people that said, who is Andrew Aversa? I don't know who this is. And so I generally recommend it should either be the business name, exactly, don't be cute, don't be funny, it's just the business name. Or you could put like Andrew at Impact Woo, John at Widgets, or whatever your company name is. And I've gotten emails from Troy at Mail Genius, for example. So with subjects and previews, the main rule of thumb is that you want to be sure you can follow up on what you're promising. And you want to create enough interest that people will want to open the email and they'll want to click without being clickbaity, if that makes sense. So sort of like making YouTube thumbnails or social media posts, same kind of idea. So we might say something like now available, personalized deals for your customers, something like that. So that could be, or like new plugin, offer personalized deals to your customers. So this would be like a very straightforward subject line. And then the preview text can be something like deliver exclusive discounts or deliver exclusive deals based on your customer's purchase history. So we're being a little bit more specific with the preview text. Now we're going to do an A/B test, which is something we can do with Klaviyo. Some other platforms support it, some don't. We'll get back to that. But now let's talk about the design. There are two ways, in my opinion, that you can approach this. You don't want to do pure HTML. It's too much work. So you can use a template. You can do some drag and drop stuff. But it's also perfectly valid, especially if you're just starting out, to do a text-only email. Text-only is less likely to go into spam. Generally speaking, the more images you have, the more likely it is that you might trigger something or the email's too big and Gmail flags it. Let's take a look at drag and drop to see what this is like. You can see there's a lot of very beautiful templates, like especially if you have great product photography, right? We can do something like, see, for a plugin, some of this stuff is too flashy and it doesn't really make sense. Maybe something like, we just want maybe one image. So let's say we could do this. Let's see how we might approach using this template. So logo, of course, we would replace this with our own. A crucial thing that Klaviyo does not do or really tell you up front is that you need to have alt text for all of your images. So we would put, like Impact Woo logo. We would put that there. I don't actually have a logo to demonstrate, but we would just replace it with the actual image here. Same thing here. This could be an image of the plugin. So this could be like screenshot of the new personalized deals plugin. And then we might link impactwoo.com/product/personalized deals. We have a link to the plugin. And we make sure that text and that image all matches. Then having some body copy. This part here, we'll get rid of it. This is not relevant to us. Very important, the footer does need to have information about how to unsubscribe and who the organization is. It's always very annoying when you get an email from somebody that you don't know or you don't remember signing up for the list and you don't know what the organization is. It's not clear. So this kind of footer should always be there. For the main body text of your email, this isn't a full copywriting bootcamp, but you want to get to the point as quickly as possible with an email like this, with a broadcast announcement. So say the right deals for the right customers, something like that. Be very clear. And then in this part, we would say, describe the plugin functionality. Make it clear it just came out, like we've just released this. Describe it. Maybe some bullet point advantages and features. So we have like kind of the summary. We have some bullet points. Summary benefits, something like that. And then you can put sincerely regards or just dash the blank team, the Impact Woo team. But I would say that when it comes to people that have already opened the email, rather than saying, sincerely Impact Woo, sincerely Impact Soundworks, sincerely Aversa Academy, whatever the case is, I think it's better to sign it a little bit more personally if you're a small business. So you could put something like, hope you enjoy the plugin and let me know if you have any questions at all. Something like this that's personal. And then you can put like Andrew Aversa, founder, Impact Woo, something like that. So a signature that indicates that this isn't like some faceless brand, but it's actually run by a real person. We don't want to put this as the sender, again, because people might not make that connection that I'm the founder until they've opened up this email. But this makes it a little bit more personal. So this would be one approach that you can use to designing your broadcast emails. And you don't want to get more cute than this. Maybe a YouTube video, if you have, let's say, somebody using the product, or you have a great review, social proof, something like that, you can experiment with adding that stuff. But honestly, I wouldn't get too much more complicated than this. So the other approach then is plain text, which is basically, it's kind of what it sounds like. We'll do change template, text only. And it's just plain text. We would put the same kind of content here about the product features. We'd put, product summary. We would say key features, conclusion, benefits. Hope you enjoy, Andrew, founder, whatever, something like that. So this is the flow of a plain text email. No images. You don't worry about anything like that. You can still put links, and obviously you should. So you can say, get the plugin here and actually spell out the link. So impactwoo.com/whatever. So you would put that. You do need to have a link, obviously, but that's it. So there's no images, nothing like that. We save our content, and this is another approach. If you do plain text, then you don't get a preview at all. So whether you use plain text or not is worth experimenting with. You could do one campaign where you do a designed email and then one where you do plain text and see how your audience reacts. But the main thing that I wanted to show with broadcast emails, this stuff is fairly straightforward. But let's say I'm just going to pick a random template here. It doesn't matter for these purposes. One of the most important things to do is to A/B test everything. There's no reason not to A/B test. So what was the preview text I had here before? I think it was something like offer, give deals to your customers based on their purchase history. It was something like that. So what I like to do is A/B test the subject lines and the preview text, because that is typically the stuff that is going to make the biggest impact to the success of the email. If somebody was interested enough to open the email based on those things, chances are it's hard to really mess up the design and the layout. I mean, it's possible, but it's not likely. So we would set the open rate as the winning metric. And then rather than just splitting the test 50-50, so let's say this variation, we'll call it like the right deals to the right customers, your new favorite plugin. So this is a totally different approach to writing a subject line. It's a little bit more curiosity inducing. And then for the preview text, we could leave it the same. We could change it. Doesn't matter. The point is just to show you want to do two pretty different things for the A/B test. And then for the test size, rather than doing 50-50, we can make it something like send A to 20% of your list, B to 20%, and then over a 6-hour period, see which one performs better. And then it's going to send the better performing variation to the other 60%. So this, again, is a no-brainer. You should always be testing stuff, because this is going to help show you what your audience is reacting to. And it's comparing apples to apples. Let's say you're not A/B testing, and you do your first product announcement or sale, and you write the subject line a certain way. And then the second email you send out, you do a completely different approach to the subject line, and it's a different product. There's too many variables. You can't know if they performed better or worse because of the content, because it's a more interesting or less interesting product, or whether it was because of how you wrote the subject line. So that's why A/B testing like this makes a lot of sense. And that's it. As far as broadcast and campaign emails, this is the kind of approach that you would take. Now I want to back up a little bit. At the beginning, we looked at recipients, and we looked at who we're sending it to. And at the moment, this is just everybody on the list, which is one person because I just made this account. But really, we want to be segmenting our lists. If you have any purchase history, if you have any customer history, then you want to actually segment your lists so that the people that are not likely to buy and not really interested won't get that email. Let's see how that looks. So if we create a list or a segment, generally speaking, you want to have one list, which is like your master list of everybody that has subscribed, whether they did it through a pop-up form or an opt-in landing page or something like that. That's your master list. Creating a segment, it's dynamic. So that the segment is like a percentage of the list. So it could be 100%, it could be 1%, it could be one person, it could be 1,000 people, but it's always going to be people from that list cut down in some way. So we could call this something like segment most engaged customers. And then say we could give it a time frame or not. Maybe actually, let's do it a different way. Let's do VIP customers. Now I don't have, let's see. So I don't have WooCommerce configured yet with Klaviyo here, but it's actually not super important for the purposes of this. It's the same idea. So here we can use a metric called active on site. This is like, have people been on the website browsing around? And we could say they've been active on the site in, let's see, in the last, active on site at least 5 times in the last 30 days. So we could use that as a metric. If WooCommerce was connected, we would see something here that says ordered product. And then we could do something like ordered product is at least 3 over all time. So this would be people that have done like at least 3 orders. So this would be one approach to doing the segmentation, is to say number of orders, how often they've been on the site. You could look at it a different way too. We could do something like what somebody has done and say, have they clicked on a lot of our emails? Have we clicked at least once over all time? So they've shown interest in our campaigns previously or our flows. We could say they've clicked emails at least once and they've been active on the site. So we can narrow it down that way. We can also do the opposite. We can look for unengaged customers. We can say people that have received email, let's say at least, hello, kitty. We could say at least 3 times over all time. We've sent them 3 emails, but we'll say and, I guess is the word here. So they've received at least 3 emails and they've clicked emails 0 times. So this would be people that are receiving them, or maybe actually a better example might be they've received email, sorry, not received, they've opened emails. So this is, it's gone into their inbox. They've been interested enough to look at the email, but they're not clicking on it. So it's like, these people need maybe a different approach. So we can name this segment. I've just given you a bunch of examples of segments, but let's focus on this one. So we'll call this interested non-clickers. So now that we have this segment, we can send to it, we can make a flow based on it. So if we go back to our campaign example, let's say we want to send a version of this broadcast email to everybody on our newsletter, but don't send to the non-clickers. Maybe those non-clickers need a different, maybe they need more of an incentive. Like these people, they're clearly interested. They want to be on the list, but the price isn't right. They're looking for like a discount maybe. So you could send one email to everybody except the non-clickers, and then you do the reverse. You can say, then send to just the non-clickers. So just send to segment interested non-clickers. And then you can design your email a little bit differently. So this is where the real power of segmentation comes in. You can also segment based on products owned. You can say anybody that's owns a product from the plugins category. So if we have a product category here, I think I made one, or no, let's see, this is called uncategorized. So let's say if we have a category called plugins, this will then update into Klaviyo, and we can say, for anybody that owns at least one plugin, that's ordered at least one thing, talk to them this way. People that own 0 plugins, talk to them another way. And the sky's the limit with how much you can segment and use these different sorts of filters for your audience. Generally speaking, activity on the website, owning products, and opening or clicking on emails are some of the most useful ways that you can do segments. And that's something that for my main business we use. I'll show that account at the end, but I want to show this sort of from a fresh perspective so it's not too overwhelming. Now, we talked about campaigns. We talked about segments a little bit. The real power of email marketing with e-commerce is automation. We have a huge advantage as e-commerce store owners, which is that we have a tremendous amount of possible actions customers can be taking. They can be looking at specific product pages. They can be adding to cart, checking out, bouncing, abandoning. There's all these kinds of things that they can be doing, leaving a review. And those actions can be tied into automated emails. And in Klaviyo, these are called flows. The general word is automations. I think MailChimp calls them journeys. So journeys, flows, automations, you can kind of use those words interchangeably. Here's an example of a basic, important email that every e-commerce store should have, which is the abandoned cart series. Now, I'm going to use their pre-made flow to start with, but you'll see we customize it quite a bit. So when you create a flow, you have some kind of trigger that kicks off the flow. So the trigger can be an action. In this case, it's started checkout, but they've placed an order 0 times since starting the flow. In other words, if they're in this flow and then they actually do check out and buy something, then this flow will exit for that person. So this is how you would do an abandoned cart. What is the time period before you start sending emails? 4 hours. So we can set this to 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Generally, emails like this, you want to send within 12 hours. You don't want people to kind of forget what they were looking at. So we can leave it at 4. I think ours at Impact Soundworks is 6. So we'll do that. And then let's look at the templates. The first email here, we can look at how Klaviyo designed this. So we'll hit edit, and we can see this is a very plain, very simple email where it has a subject line that looks like you left something behind. I've also seen like, hey, did you forget something? That's another kind of common subject line. There's no preview text. And in the email itself, what you'll see is that this block here is dynamically generated. So this automatically pulls information from your store from that customer's cart. So it'll say the items that they had, the quantity, the pricing, so that they can remember, oh yeah, I was going to buy that camera, or I was going to get that laptop case, or whatever you're selling. It would list those exact things here. The design and content of these emails specifically is going to vary a little bit based on your brand, your price point, your voice, kind of like how you write as a business. You want it to be congruous. You want it to match how you write on your website, how you do your broadcast campaigns, your advertising. This is a very generic approach. It says, we've saved all the great items you've added. So for example, my business in music software, Impact Soundworks, I think I say something like, we hate the sound of silence. Get inspired with your music by finishing your purchase. Things like that where it ties in with the business itself. Using really generic terms, it will look even more like a form letter. Even if people know it's a form letter, that level of personalization is something we can do with email that we can't do so much, again, with like Facebook, Google Ads, things like that. So we can customize this further, but the last element is returning to the cart. It's hideous colors. I don't know how they got those colors. So you probably want something like a blue or a green for the button. And then this is going to, at the moment, this is not pointing to anything because WooCommerce is not integrated, but eventually the URL would be something like impactwoo.com/cart. And when they click on this, they go back to the cart and it would be exactly where they left off. All the other stuff, padding, fonts, all that, that's like the icing on the cake. You don't need to worry too much about those elements. The main thing is the text itself and the elements that are actually in the template, which is showing the items. One thing I did find interesting, though, when we did some testing, we found that if people had larger carts, having return to cart below all the items was not necessarily the best idea, because then they could kind of like see the items, but then they don't see the cart link until they scroll down. So we usually put this button above the items. You can still see the items usually pretty easily. And then you'll also be able to preview what this looks like. Of course, there's nothing in the cart at the moment, but you can see it on desktop. You can see it on mobile, kind of the spacing and all that. And you can also see the email size. If you have lots of images, branding, logos, you'd be able to see if this is too big or not. Oh, and finally, you can also send a test email. If I wanted to send this to myself, averse@gmail.com, I can do that and actually see how it would show up in the inbox. So this is a classic, simple example of an abandoned cart email. But having just one is not ideal. It's not preferable. Once you have the first email, what you would do is you would set it to live. We'll dismiss. And then A/B test. Just like with campaigns, we want to start doing A/B testing right away. So we can create an A/B test and do exactly the same thing as a campaign. We can do a different subject line. We could do something like, you left something behind. We can say like a question: did you forget something? And then say, peek inside to see the revenue you left on the table. I don't know. This is kind of like a little bit of a bad example for preview text because this test company, this test page, I don't have a brand voice yet for it because it's mostly for test purposes. But again, the idea is you want to have a different approach, like fairly different approach to subject lines and preview text. Now, once you have the test, it looks like this. You see two emails stacked on one another. And then you are able to look at analytics. So I can say, how did this flow do this week? You would see open, click rate. In this case, the metric for what Klaviyo is looking at is active on site. How many people are being active on site as a result of this email? For an e-commerce site, what you'll actually want to do is you would have placed order right here. So we've got placed order or started checkout. Chances are placed order is going to be the most valuable if you're an e-commerce store. For obvious reasons, we want to know if people actually spent the money. If they click on our emails, but then they're not actually completing their purchase, that is a red flag. That tells us that maybe there's some problem in our cart to checkout flow. If people are like, let's say 30% is kind of like a good minimum open rate. If you have much lower than 30%, it's probably a problem with your emails. But if you have higher than 30% open rate and people are clicking on the emails and people are not checking out, again, you want to investigate your website. Maybe it's too slow. Maybe there's a bug. Maybe people's preferred payment method doesn't exist. Any of those things could be the problem. So we would change the metric to that. It's not showing up at the moment because we don't have the full integration yet, but that is how you would select it. You would select the placed order instead. Now, where it gets interesting with flows is that you can also do multiple emails in this chain. So we could wait 20 hours and we can ping them again. We can say your cart is about to expire. It's the same exact idea where we're basically listing out the items and saying, giving a reminder, maybe something like in 24 hours, your cart will expire. Here's the thing. We don't know for sure exactly how long that's going to take because it depends on the store platform that you're using. It depends on your cookie settings. It depends if people are even checking on the same device. Like technically it may have already expired, or if they use incognito mode, or if they change devices, it could have already expired, which is why we list those items first to remind people what they were trying to buy. But still, adding that urgency, even if we don't know if it's exactly true or not, will definitely help people click on the email. Now, what we have found is that 2 emails is good. 3 emails can be even better. So we could have wait 20 hours. So this is a total of about 26 hours. Let's say we want to add one more day. We can add a time delay, 1 day, and we can say, let's do 10 a.m. in the recipient's time zone. But let's also not send it on Saturdays or Sundays. So this is something that we can do to make sure that this isn't going to go out on a weekend, and instead it's going to go out when people are most likely to be checking their email. And now that we have that delay, we can drag in another email. We can also duplicate a previous one. One reason I was saying that we would change the template, typically what a good idea is to do the first email, edit it however you want, put in your branding, your colors, your logo, footer, whatever the case is, and then copy that email so you don't have to do that branding work over and over again. It's just a little bit easier that way. But anyway, once we have this second email, we can drag it around down here. I guess we ended up with 2 by mistake, so I'll delete one. And there you go. So that's how we get the flow. You can also do conditionals, but those are not really so relevant in the case of abandoned cart. So let's move on to a different example. Let's do browse abandonment. So this is one where if people are just looking at things on your site, you can reach out to them via email a certain number of hours later. It's going to be the same filter where they've started checkout 0 times, they haven't bought anything, and we can also say don't send it to anybody that has received this kind of email in the last 30 days. So we don't want to spam people with this because you might look at 10 different products. You don't want to be in this flow 10 different times. Definitely not a good idea. So we have that as a trigger. And then, well, just like with add to cart, we have a time delay. One thing that I found interesting, we did a test recently to see 2 hours versus 6 hours. And we found that 6 hours was actually better than 2 hours, because I think if you just look at a page and you get an email 2 hours later, kind of comes across a little aggressive. Like that person might have just taken a long lunch break, and getting an email like, hey, you were just looking at this, it's a little invasive. So 6 hours, I think, tends to work a little bit better. The email design, it's the same exact idea as abandoned cart. There's not a lot of, of course, there's plenty more to say about email design and subjects and testing and all that. But what I want to talk about are conditional splits here. So let's say somebody's viewed a product, but we want to send different emails based on what that product or category is. So here we could do a conditional split. We could say what someone has done, and they've placed order, they've viewed products where it's not showing up. There would be a field here that says name. I guess I'll do this as an example. So it would say, I can't do it because of the integration, but it would say where a person has placed order, where name is, let's say, high ticket item. I don't know what it would be in your store, but let's say you have $500 items and you have $50 items. So the people that were looking at a $500 item, we hit save, and it's not gonna let me do it. Let's do name, test product name. I have to give it something in order to do this. High ticket item. Let's see. Okay, so we save. So then we have a split now. So people that are in one branch, we can say, if it's a $500 item, maybe we start sending them social proof. We say, look what other people are saying about this product. Look at this review. Look at this video that we made about how to use the product. And we can continue that way for a couple emails. We can delay things a few days. So let's say we have an email, wait a day, another email, wait 2 days, one chain. Whereas for a low ticket item, something that's $20, $30, $40 that is potentially more of an impulse buy, especially if the rest of your store is more expensive, we can have a shorter flow and we can write it differently, just kind of encouraging people to buy. They might not need that much more encouragement. Now, with both browse abandonment and cart abandonment, a good idea at the end of the flow as like a one last thing is to offer a discount of some kind. So if whether you're using WooCommerce or Shopify or whatever, you can create coupons this way. So you could make a static coupon in your flows. It could be something like, my first coupon 15. You would give it a description. You could say 15% off entire cart through Klaviyo flow. So people won't see this. It'll just execute the logic. So we'll say percentage discount, 15%. And then the usage restriction, let's say exclude things that are on sale. Can't use it with any other coupons. Whatever the case is for creating the coupon. It's not actually important, this part logic here. But we can then copy and paste that coupon code into our flow. So we could say something like, the way they write the template emails, it's not great. I don't think this is a particularly good example. But let's say, hey there, if you're still on the fence about, whatever the product name is, we've got something that might help make up your mind. Use coupon code this, whatever the coupon code is, for 15% off your order. But hurry, this deal expires in 72 hours. So something like that is one way to do it. There are advanced features in Klaviyo that let you deliver dynamic coupons, like every single person getting the flow gets a different coupon. That is a little bit out of scope for this sort of bootcamp because this is more of an entry-level thing. So I recommend just doing a static coupon like this, and then make sure your logic here in your e-commerce platform prevents abuse. So for example, we've excluded sale items. We could say this coupon can only be used once per user, so they can't use it on every single order. Things like that. You want to make sure that it's not going to be shared around and abused by somebody over and over again. But this kind of offer is a great idea. And then if you have a third email in the sequence, you can remind them, you can say, don't forget, you can get 15% off with coupon code blah, blah, blah. If you wanted to customize it even further, then you could add another conditional split. You could say something like, before that deal email, let's add a note to ourselves. Let's say we call this final email with 15% discount. This is for our own reference. We could say if somebody's already received that email, what somebody has done, if they've already received the email at least once, where the name, I don't know why that's not popping up, so that's weird. So it'd be like where email name is, and then we would type in, did you see something you liked? If they did receive it, then send them a different email. Send them more social proof, reviews, testimonials. If they did not ever receive that discount, then send them the discount email. So these conditional splits are incredibly powerful for delivering the right emails to the right people and making sure that people don't get upset. Because just going back to my earlier comments about making sure your email isn't viewed as spam, you need to deliver on what you're promising. So whether your subject line needs to flow into your email body. In other words, when people open the email, it should reflect what you wrote in the subject line. And then your website, your e-commerce store, should reflect what you promised in the email. So if you say there's a 15% deal, you better make sure that there's actually a 15% deal or coupon available. If you don't, we've sent literally millions of emails for Impact Soundworks, and people will notice if there's something that's not valid. So you want to avoid that situation and make sure that you're sending only valid deals. And using conditionals is a great way to do that. You can also see that this stacked conditional is totally possible. Let's use a different one. Let's say properties about someone. We could say they viewed items, and they viewed items that are, personalized deals. Let's say they viewed that product. And then let's say we send them an email if they viewed our new plugin that we just came out with. This is the product on our test website. It's called Personalized Deals. So we can send them an email that's like personalized deals, more info. So we send them that because we really care about selling that one product. Again, for example. Then we can set another time delay. We'll do any weekday. And then you can then drag this flow back to everything else. So essentially what happens here is if I guess I had it reversed by mistake, but basically one branch, this should be reversed. In fact, we can do conditional split flip. Okay. So if they were looking at our personalized deals product, then send them this special email, wait a day, and then continue the main flow. If they did not look at that, then just skip over that middle step and go back to the main flow. This kind of conditional, where you have two branches and then they combine again, is incredibly powerful. It's especially useful for the third kind of flow I want to talk about, which is a post-purchase. So let's see what that looks like. We have they call it customer thank you, whatever you want to call it. So when somebody places an order, this is very straightforward. They bought something. So here we can say, we can see what their conditional is, which is, have they ever placed an order before? So if they have placed one, actually, I think they have this reversed too. It says, has placed order equals one all time. Oh, wait, no, never mind. So if they've placed one order, that means this is their first order. So they get an email, you're what makes us great, whatever. If they've placed more than one, then they get a thank you again type email. The content of this kind of thing is not super important at the moment. The sort of the thank you relationship building, it's very, very useful to be able to just reach out and say thank you and say, if you need help with your product, help with your purchase, let me know. Where it gets particularly powerful is when you look at what they actually bought. So for this, I'm actually going to switch over to our, let's see. I'm going to switch over to, hold on a second. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the Impact Soundworks Klaviyo account, which is populated with quite a bit of stuff already. So this is going to be a big shift. It might look a little overwhelming at first, but I want to walk through it to show this is sort of like an aspirational, what you want your flows to eventually look like. And I'll drag it onto the main screen. Okay, 1 second. So we're going to look at, we call it post-purchase. And I'm just going to look at, I'll hide the analytics for today just because it's not super important, but okay. So here we go. This is our post-purchase flow. So let's look at what we do. So first thing, we have a placed order, and then this does not go out to people that got free products. If you got something for free, like a sample, or in our case, we have kind of free demo plugins and demo products, we have a separate flow for that. So this flow is for people that actually paid money for something. So we wait a day, and then we check for repeat customers. If they have more than one, then we say thank you again for your purchase. And you can see actually the open rate on this is 65%, pretty exceptional, and the click rate is 7%. Otherwise, it's just generally thank you for your purchase. Then we wait a day. And now I'm going to show you the powerful conditional logic that you can eventually get to. We have a product called Tokyo Scoring Strings, which is a high ticket item. So if what they bought was Tokyo Scoring Strings, and they do not own this other related sort of companion product called Tokyo Scoring Drum Kits, here's what that conditional looks like. If ordered product name is Tokyo Scoring Drum Kits 0 times over all time, we're going to do an upsell or cross-sell, whatever you want to call it. I call it an upsell here. So this is where we say, hey, you can cross-grade. You might be interested in this other thing that we have. And in this case, I'm sort of just jumping right ahead to giving them like a $30 discount on it. Say, hey, as a Tokyo Scoring Strings owner, you can get this for $30 off. And then if these things aren't true, let's say they didn't buy Tokyo Scoring Strings, or they did, but they already own this companion, then you can see the logic just skips over and we go back to the main flow. And then I repeat the same thing. If you got the drum kits, but you don't have the strings, you get a cross grade. Going down here, let's say you ordered something, let's say you don't own, the category. If you bought something from the category shreddage, that's a product category we have, and you don't own this companion, you could think of it almost as an accessory product called Shreddage Amp XTC, then we're going to do a sequence here. So if you do not have Shreddage Amp XTC, you get a 2 email chain kind of upselling to that. Say, hey, this is the perfect complement to what you just bought. And here's your exclusive deal. Now, let's say you bought a shreddage instrument, but you already have the amp. So then you go to this rightmost branch where it says, hey, you can actually upgrade from just this one part of the bundle, the shreddage bundle. You can get the whole thing. And here's your exclusive deal on that. And we go and we do it again and we do it again and again as far as how we do these upsells to people. But it doesn't have to stop there. We can keep building out this series because we're trying to cultivate a relationship and we're trying to build value with our email marketing system. None of these emails cost more money. If we wanted to run 10 different Facebook ads, then unless we're willing to just literally decimate our budget, we have to pay more money for every single ad we run. We have to pay money for every single Google ad we run, right? But with email, I can have as many emails as I want in this chain. Conditionals, time delays, it's the same price for the service. So whatever I'm paying per month for Klaviyo covers all of this stuff, which is one of the reasons why email marketing is such a good value for small businesses. So then the next part of this is, are they consented to receive SMS? We have SMS customers. It's a pretty small percentage, but some people like that. And we have 2 emails here. We have 1 email and then we have 1 SMS, which is basically reminding people that they earn loyalty points. We have a loyalty system and we tell them about that. Then we have a few days after that, we say, hey, would you like to join our community? We have a Discord, we have a YouTube channel where you can get tips. So come join that. And the open rate on this is 80% recently. So pretty outstanding, this kind of email. But let's say this is your first purchase, and you don't know what loyalty rewards are and what you can get with them. Then we have an email just for that. So your first purchase, you're going to get this email. What rewards can you unlock? Your second purchase, you get the invitation to the community. Then actually, here's an interesting thing that I just noticed. If you're getting multiple purchases, you're going to keep getting this email. I could add a filter to this. I could go to additional filters and I could add something like what someone has not done. Let's say received email where message is an invitation to the ISW community. 0 times. So if I enable this filter, it'll say, do not send this to people that already received this specific email. So just something that you can do depending on the nature of the email. Anyway, the final thing that we did in our post-purchase chain we've been building this up for a while. You wouldn't start by doing this. You would start with just a simple thank you email. Then you build out your cross-sells, your upsells, all that other stuff. But something we do at the bottom is then we look at the product they purchased and see if we can give them some value. So not an upsell, not trying to extract any more money or get more orders or whatever. It's just helpful information about how to use what they bought. So here it's using this amp with virtual guitars. If they bought a product called Shreddage 3 Archtop, you get a video on how to use that. If you didn't buy that, but you bought any other shreddage instrument, you get this. And if we look at some of these emails, just as an example, here we have an email. It basically says, we hope you're enjoying this. Here is a video you can watch on YouTube. Also, let us know what you want to see next. You have some reminders like, hey, you can connect with us on these platforms. So all that, it's good stuff, right? These are the things that we do to build our relationships over time. So I've closed that tab for now just because that is a fairly mature flow as far as email marketing goes. I would not expect most people in e-commerce to just jump right to something like that. But you can if you want. Now, so there's something else with email marketing that's really important. I touched on this briefly, but that is, actually, I am back to the Impact Soundworks account. Okay. You want to be authentic, relatable, personal as much as possible. So pretending to be a big company when you're not. This is something I've seen, especially in like the sort of the entrepreneur community out there. When people first start their business, maybe they've got a few sales, maybe they have none yet. They write emails and they talk sometimes like they're a big brand. They call themselves the CEO when they're the only employee. It's just one person doing everything. They might write their emails and say, we, hope you enjoy this product. We did this, we did that, when it's just one person working for the company. So it's important to keep in mind that being a very, very small business and just starting out, it can actually be an advantage because you probably know all your customers. If you're getting 1 or 2 orders a day, you probably know who those 1 or 2 customers are because you're looking at those emails regularly, right? So you want your email marketing to reflect that. You want to be able to say, I appreciate your business. Let me know what I can do to help you with your purchase. If you have any questions, if you want some tips, anything like that, that's what you would want to do. The opposite of that is trying to fake it till you make it kind of approach where you pretend to be a big brand when you're not, which I think it really just does not work well for email. On Facebook, on Google Ads, yes, you want to look like you have authority, like you're a legitimate business, but email should be more personal. Let's take a look at another flow that we have for Impact Soundworks. This is a somewhat more advanced one, but it's worth thinking about because I think it's pretty cool. This is called a win-back flow. So here we have a different kind of trigger. You can make a segment, and I showed how to make segments earlier, like, has somebody been active on the site in the last 30 days, the last 60 days, the last 90 days? Well, you can filter and say, has somebody not purchased anything for the last, in this case, 240 days is what we put. Because at least with our business, our average time between purchases is like half a year. People are not on our site regularly buying stuff. We have been around for a long time, but just the purchase behavior, it's not like a company where you're selling food and supplements that you might be ordering a lot, like every month. So for us, having a long delay for that lapsed property is fine for that segment. So here we can set the trigger for this flow rather than a specific behavior like ordered a product or viewed a product or added to cart. We can say they were added to this dynamic segment. And the segment in this case is lapsed customers, which I set up in the segments area. And here we've built out a highly customized conditional flow that basically tries to get people interested again in our business, to look at the latest releases. So for example, now we have separate chains. We have 3 branches. We have one that goes to people that have placed 1 order, another branch 2 orders, and then the final one is the VIPs, people that have ordered from us 3 times or more. I'm just going to look at the first email because it's the simplest to just look at one thing. So the first email in the chain is basically, hey, you haven't been around for a while, and if hopefully you're liking our stuff. If you have any issues, let us know, and then talk a little bit about what, remind people what kind of things we offer. Because keeping in mind, these people have only ordered one thing. We have over 90 products. So we want to say, okay, here's a YouTube video that's very popular on our channel. Here are some critically acclaimed products that we released recently. Here's another YouTube video, some more products. So this is kind of like the eye candy, the catalog that's getting people to look and think about like, oh yeah, I didn't know they did that. That's the purpose of this one. Now, we wait 7 days, and then we do some kind of discount or incentive. Very common. And we have a filter on all these emails to basically say, if you did place an order after starting this flow, you don't get any more emails, obviously, because the purpose of this is to get people to order again and to engage again. So we can look at this email. So the next one in the flow is saying, hey, have you had your eye on anything in particular? We're going to give you a discount on your next thing. So here's a coupon. And we show some more products that are popular that we've released in the last year. So we've got 4 more with descriptions. And then moving on, the next one, and we're doing these about every week. We're saying, hey, it really has been a while. Are you looking for something we don't have? And this is like an open prompt to say, hey, drop us a note. Let us know your thoughts. We read and respond to everything. And we mean that. We really do respond to everything. And these 2 down here, it says pay what you want because these are actually free products. So maybe this is a budget thing. Maybe people just don't have the money to buy from us again this year. That's fine. So here's like 2 gifts, basically. You can just get these for free. And then also at the bottom of all these flow emails, we have our sort of company promises, which is that we regularly update everything. You can access what you bought forever, which is not always a given in our industry. And then we have outstanding customer support. Okay. Then we have one more email, which is saying, hey, do you still want to hear from us at all? So it says, you can see what it says here, but the summary is basically that we know that you get a lot of emails. Maybe you're just not interested. And so if you don't respond to this, and if you don't take any action, we're going to only contact you again if we have a big announcement. And then we wait another week, and then we can update properties for this customer. We can say, if they placed no orders, then we're going to say the win back was a fail. Then when we create more flows and campaigns, we can say, hey, unless this is important, exclude everybody that had a win back fail. Now, let's say they not only didn't buy anything, but they didn't even click any of these emails. Well, in that case, we're going to make a property called unengaged. And maybe we just exclude those unengaged people from basically everything. In the case of our business, the holiday sale that we do every year is by far the biggest traffic period and where we get the most sales. So if they're marked as unengaged, maybe we literally just send them that because it's, my cat might turn off my computer. Hey, get off there, kitty. It's working from home, right? So having a property like this is very valuable. If you want to just glance at how we do this for the other customers, for example, the VIPs, I think we have something like, let's see, the opening email is a little bit different. So we say, hey, thanks for being a VIP. That's different, obviously, and say, not just sharing our recent releases, but also sharing sort of what people have been saying about them. Here we have, this is among the few fretless bases that nails, blah, blah, blah. Tokyo scoring drum kits. We've got a nice review here, and then we've still got this informational video. So it's a slightly different approach. What will be interesting to me is to look at the analytics for this. We just launched this recently, but I'm going to be interested to see, after running this for half a year, how well did this do? What paths generated the most response? And for the ones that are doing well, we lean into those kinds of emails more. And then for the ones that did not perform well, we try different things. We do tests. And actually, you can see every single email in this chain has an A/B test because, well, almost everyone. This one, I think we already completed the A/B because we saw one of them had just a clearly better open rate than the other. So that is an example of a win-back flow. Now that basically is sort of like a high-level view. It's a lot of information, but you can always watch this again. Here, I'm going to make myself bigger for a second. This is a high-level view of email marketing for e-commerce in a nutshell. But hopefully, if you take anything away from this, it's just that if all you're doing is just emailing your whole list anytime you have just some new thing, you're really underutilizing the power of email. And if you're writing emails without using any kind of like dynamic triggers or segments or automations, then you're being too broad. You're using a shotgun approach where you can use a scalpel. I guess that's probably a wrong analogy. Axe instead of scalpel, right? And if you're using something like Klaviyo, the pricing, I think you can use it for free for up to 250 emails on your list. And then after that, it's like $30 or $40 a month for the next tier up. That's really not that expensive. For the amount of value you get, for an account like ours, we have hundreds of thousands of subscribers on our list. So, of course, we pay a lot more for that than you would if you only had 1,000 or 2,000. But the amount of value we get, proportional to the cost. If I think about it for a second, we probably get, let's see, not 10x. We probably get well over 30 times return on email spend. So for the monthly fee, if I take those monthly fees, I add it up for the whole year, and then I look at the revenue that email generated. For us, that's about a third of our entire revenue, which is kind of where that's the target. You want email to be generating about a third of your revenue. That's like at least 30 times what we're paying for the email service. You cannot get that kind of return on ad spend, or I guess return on marketing spend, let's call it. You cannot get that anywhere else. You just can't. Even the very best spectacular ads are going to be like 5 times, maybe, and those are going to fluctuate. One of the other huge advantages of email, just as compared to ads and other kinds of marketing channels, is that you're not at the whims of other companies and algorithms. Let's say you are big on TikTok and your videos are doing well. If TikTok changes its algorithm and they deprioritize your kind of content, that investment is kind of wasted. Facebook, for a classic example, when Facebook was younger, having business pages was super, super valuable. But then over time, they reduced the organic reach so much that the value of those pages just dropped tremendously unless you were also spending money on ads. With email, as long as people really did consent to being on the list and you are segmenting properly, somebody that's been on your list for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, they're going to be just as valuable. And other than the change on iOS that basically just changed sort of how open rates are calculated, there really haven't been any of these like sea changes to how email is viewed and how it's used by people. So the bottom line is that with email, you have full control over everything. You have control over how it's presented, when people get it, how often people hear from you, what people hear from you. And even with the very best targeting on other marketing platforms, you're just not going to get that. So that has been our sort of 101 email marketing e-commerce bootcamp. Again, if you have any questions, you want me to take a look maybe at your own site or your own marketing, feel free to email me, admin@andrewversa.com. You can leave a comment. And also be sure to subscribe to our mailing list, the Aversa Academy mailing list, which is in this YouTube description. I'm going to be sending strategies and tips for e-commerce store owners. And they'll be useful regardless of whether you're using WooCommerce or Shopify. I like WooCommerce myself, but it's for everybody. All right. Thank you for watching.